15 minutes to get through this. Are you going to stay with me?
Yes.
What'd you say? Sorry.
I said I got 15 minutes to get through this. Are you going to stay with me? I'm still seeing you talking.
Yes.
Okay? All right. We have a very interesting lesson today. We have already done inequalities, right? Like 2x plus 4 is greater than 10, right? We've done things like this. We just subtract 4 on both sides. We get 2x is greater than 6. We divide by 2 on both sides, and we get x is greater than 3. Then we do a cute little number line. We say 3 is here, and x has to be greater than it, so we'll fill in the higher numbers. We'll leave our circle open because it doesn't equal it. And that was a cute inequality that we worked with last week. I know I went through that fast because we did that. It's done, okay? That was adorable. Now we're going to work with compound inequalities, which means 2 or more inequalities that kind of work together. No big deal. They're still just inequalities, but we're going to bring them together to make a compound inequality. Does that sound like fun? Yes, Mrs. Legg. Very good. Okay, so this was a vocabulary word. It's highlighted in yellow, so it should be written down. A compound equality is made up of 2 or more inequalities. We're writing it down. It's a compound inequality. We're not talking, we're just writing. Made up of 2 or more inequalities. Okay, let's just look at what this compound inequality, well, I should say the graph of this compound inequality. Let's look at what it says, okay? We're used to seeing just one arrow, one section filled in, right? Now we have 2. 2, that means it must be a compound inequality because the value for x isn't just one set of numbers, it's 2 sets of numbers, right? Let's break it down. If we were to separate this number line into 2 different number lines, right, 2 separate number lines, we could say, let's deal with this guy first, okay?
Deal with what? I can't see.
Sorry, this guy first. -3 is where our point is. It's filled in, so it means it's
Equal to.
equal to it, or x has to be
Less than.
less than. So it would be x is less than or equal to -3. This is something we have learned. You started last year. We reviewed it last week, okay? When you have something like this, they just kind of separated it onto one number line here. On this number line, or this graph, they have this other part to the compound inequality. This, just like up here, it's showing that x has to be greater than 2. Or equal?
Nope.
No,
It's not
it's
filled in.
not filled in. So it's just greater than 2. So we would simply read this graph as saying the graph is x is less than or equal to -3, or x is greater than 2. They're going in opposite directions, so it's kind of like, well, x is either going this way or x is going this way. It's an or statement, okay? We will be dealing with and statements in a second, but this is an or statement where they're like, one's this way, one's that way. They're never meeting,
Highway.
okay? Can I move on?
Mhm.
Good. Now let's look at an and. An and. What do you notice about the x value here? Yes?
That there's two dots connecting.
Yeah, so what would we say? We would say x is, how would you describe that?
Combined.
I'm so confused of what's going on.
Okay, before we had x going in that direction and then a completely separate solution
What
set.
do you mean x is
So I just want it in words. I just want you to say what it looks like. X is,
x is greater than
don't worry about the numbers. X is,
x is greater than or equal to
no,
Same.
don't even worry about inequalities.
Equal to.
No.
X is conjoined.
Yeah, so it's
I'm looking for two words.
equal.
One starts with I
Compound
and the next one starts with B.
Integer.
Indescribable
No.
polarities.
In, X is in,
Unequal to.
X is in,
In between.
who said it? Thank you. X is
I
in,
would have known that.
In between both.
X is in between, okay? When we have an and inequality, X is in between. Now, we don't write that as X is in between these numbers, but I wanted you guys to recognize that that's the value of X, it's in between these. But we have to specify, because one of these numbers includes, one of these numbers is included in the value of X. One of these numbers is not included, because we have an or equal to here, we don't have an or equal to here, Grayson. So far, are we okay? We're just analyzing it, we're not saying anything, we're just saying X is in between, instead of like on that side and that side, top side totally separate, it's in between. And that's gonna make sense the way that we write it. So, if X has to be, now this is if we put them on separate graphs and allowed them to continue, this -4 graph would look like X has to be greater than or equal to -4, right? And it looks like it keeps going and going forever. But it does have a stopping point, because it also says that X has to be less than 1. So, this can't go on forever, and this can't go on forever. They kind of stop each other, right? They stop each other. And they say, X does have a solution set, but it's in between us. And then the -4 says, and including me. And the one's like, fine, I'll just stay here and just be a stopping point. It doesn't include me at all. Okay, but do you agree that it's in between? Okay? All right, so we could say X is greater than -4, greater than or equal to -4, and X is less than 1, but the way we write it mathematically is we say X is in between these two values. The -4 is included, the 1 is not. Now,
How do you write it?
it's written like this: -4 is less than or equal to X. Now, how am I writing that? It says X is greater than or equal to -4. How can I switch that around?
Just go from left to right.
Yeah, because here's where X is, it means X is in the middle, and -4 is less than X, right? Less than or equal to X. It's just the opposite of this, or I shouldn't say it's the opposite, I should say it's the exact same, it's just read backwards. X is greater than or equal to -4, well, let's read it this way. -4 is less than or equal to X. So when we write it out, we put X in between, we have -4 is less than or equal to X, and X is less than 1. So can I just say, well, if X is X, I can just bring those together, right?
Yeah.
I could just bring it together. So -4 is less than or equal to X is less than 1. -4 is less than or equal to X, and X is less than 1.
Yep.
So that's a compound inequality.
So basically go left to right.
Yeah, it has like end points. Okay. I want you guys to write this one. Is it an or an and?
It's an and.
Good.
Because it's in between.
So is it gonna have two separate inequalities, or is it going to have an in between?
It's conjoined.
In between, go ahead. 4. Yes. Yeah, you're gonna fill up. Yeah. You can take your stuff with you. You can take your stuff.
I'm not sure I'll get an ice.
Okay. So what I would love for you to do is get out a pencil, because it's so hard to read that when you do it in marker and you try to write over your marker. Do you have a pencil? We have lots of pencils in the back. You can get it. And from now on, we use a pencil when we take notes, okay? So I can read it properly, okay?
Wait, what that? Is x greater than 2?
-2, yes. So I'm gonna put my x in the middle here, okay?
Okay.
And I'm gonna say, now we're gonna compare it with -2, okay? -2 is on the left side, so I'm gonna put it down here, right? So -2, is -2 bigger than or smaller
Less
than
than.
x? It's less than, right? Does it include it? No. And is x less than or greater than
Less.
6? Less than
or equal
or
to.
equal to 6.
That's
That's how simple, that's all you have to do. Yeah, but I'm not done, so shush.
Oh, dang.
Can I move on?
Yes.
Don't let this scare you. Don't let it scare you guys. It's everything you've already learned. We're just doing it in order. That's it. Why do you freak out? Shh, shh. Let me do this. I'm not letting you leave until I'm done, okay? So we have solve the compound inequality. This or this. We're solving it for x. We're gonna solve them separately. It's just two separate inequalities that we're going to show on the same graph. We're going to compound them, okay? X can be this, or x can be that. Now, it's gonna look a tiny bit different when we graph it, and that's why I really want you guys to stay for a second, okay? And this is the last thing I have, okay? Last thing. So if we have 5x minus 7 is less than 13, we solve this quickly because we've done this many times, right? Plus 7, we have 5x is less than 20. Divide by 5, we have x is less than 4. I'm sorry to go through that quickly, but we've done it a couple of times already, right? Do you agree that
Yep.
solving this inequality is as simple as that? Let's move over here. This is just another inequality. We don't have to combine like terms. We don't even have to deal with fractions. It's beautiful, okay? Minus 3 on both sides. You get negative 4x is greater than 8. Divide by 4, divide by -4, divide by -4. Uh-oh, what do we do with our inequality here? We do flippies, okay? When you divide by a negative, you have to do flippies to the inequality, okay? So instead of having a greater than sign, when they divided by -4, they flipped it. So x is less than -2. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Don't move, don't pack up. When we graph them, first let's graph them separately. X is less than 4. Do you agree that this graph is beautiful? Gorgeous.
Oh my God.
This graph, x is less than -2. Do you agree with that graph?
Yes.
Do you also notice that if you look at this, does it?
Attention
No.
ovation. It is now time for
No.
transition to
No.
eighth period.
I will let your teacher
Again,
know
it is
that I
now
made
time
you
to
stay with me.
transition to
Okay, I will
eighth
send out an
period.
email, nobody's
Thank
moving.
you.
I scare
Because you
because I care. Yes, and because I'm very controlling. Just kidding. Okay, shh, listen, give me 1 minute. Do you agree that when you look at these two graphs, isn't this one kind of included
Yes.
down there? If this is already saying that x is less than 4, isn't that what this is saying, just not very well, right? So when we can actually put those together and say, well, if this really is part of that, then I can just use this one to represent the entire compound inequality. I didn't set it back up. I'm keeping you longer now. I know. I mean, I'm not done. This is called a subset. This here is a subset because it already has the elements that is included in here. So it kind of like disappears because it's already included. Somebody trying to come in here?
Yeah, there's like
A lot of people. Yeah, your next period.
I don't have another class.
There's a bunch of people trying to like.
So how does friends?
They wait for
I
their friend.
don't care. I don't care.
And then Vince.
Oh, Vincent's out there. Poor Vincent. Okay, guys, do you get this?
Yes.
Yes.
Then you can go.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Can you turn off the